Aloha and welcome to another episode of Cape and Cowl Unlimited, the place for everything superhero and all that's awesome in between. I'm your host Alex Burns and I'm joined with my bro Sam Burns.
Back again.
Excellent. Okay, so we're talking about Zelda, the Twilight Princess, HD remake. It's come out this week, guys. You know, we're excited to just see this game back in the headlines, regardless of like if you're picking this up. You know, if you're a fan of Zelda, if you're a fan of the original, it's fair to say Twilight Princess holds a pretty controversial place in the hierarchy of Zelda games. It's a lot of people love it. Some people really can't get behind it. You know, then there's a few Zelda games that do split fans like that. But it's 10 years, man. 10 years since it came out.
Indeed. Well, the first thing about Twilight Princess that I feel is that Ocarina of Time is a timeless game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's just whenever you talk about Zelda, that's the first port of call you want to go to.
Yeah.
And I think it says a lot about Twilight Princess that out of everything, you know, like you've had Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, out of those four, which were all good games in their own rights, this is the one they've wanted to bring back because it was massive. It was the Ocarina of Time for the next gen.
It's celebrating the anniversary.
Yeah.
It was a big deal, man. So when this game came out, it was, you know, a game for two consoles. Really, it was the GameCube sort of last
hurrah,
death kneel. You know, and it was, you know, launching on the Wii, and you had to play with the waggle, and you know, all of a sudden Link was left-handed and stuff like that, and it was strangely. We remember picking it up. You know, actually, 10 years is crazy because it feels like yesterday. We were
it makes you feel a lot older. I was 11 at the time that game came out. The thing is, you had Wind Waker on the GameCube, which we both loved. We won't get into, but we loved that game. But like you said, fans have been split about Zelda games. It was a completely it was a weird direction to go in, I guess. It was like a very animated style,
again, that was one that's controversial, and it kind of exists outside of Zelda anyway. But Twilight Princess was sort of maybe that reaction. Hardcore fans wanted the sort of next generation,
a rebirth of the Ocarina style,
and it does remind you of that when you're playing it. The beats are there, of course. All Zelda games follow a typical sort of structure, you know, rescue the princess. But this one, man, I mean, it opens with some sort of existential philosophy stuff going on with like two dudes fishing and talking about the Twilight Realm and how, you know, shadow, there's nothing in shadow, and it doesn't play out like a sort of a traditional Zelda game, and it is a lot darker, and that's part of the reason I love it, and you love it as well.
Yeah, because it was people didn't like Wind Waker because they maybe thought it was a bit too kiddie, like the direction they wanted. Even though I love that game, they wanted a direction of like how childish it looked and everything like that. And then Twilight Princess was, as you said, a reaction. It was just so much darker.
Yeah,
it wasn't letting up on anything, and it's the only game really that had a moment where it kind of freaked. Well, not a moment, like it freaked me out a little bit because I found Zan frightening. I really did.
He was a fantastic villain, and it was great to see someone other than Ganondorf right front and centre. We've had secondary villains before, but he was terrifying, man. He opened his mouth, and there was like weird sort of fish things going on.
It was very, very scary. But there was only Zant scared me throughout most of that game. You didn't know what he was. You didn't really understand what was underneath everything like that. Because the only other moment really in those games that scare me was when Ganondorf looks at you in the garden, you know, when you're like you and Zelda, in Ocarina,
sort of surprise,
and but I feel those games should do more of that. You know, they should be more like, because it is a very scary thing, man. You're basically it's like Hyrule Heaven and like the Twilight Realm, which is hell. It very much is that, you know, like this light and shadow thing they've got going on.
I loved the bridge, the idea that these two worlds have to exist together, and you know, the whole Twilight Mirror thing bridges the gap, and there's a struggle for power in terms of like the gods, and Zant's leading a rebellion because he worships Ganondorf. You know. Ganondorf, for me, like when they brought him in at the end, it was a bit of sort of a rush thing. I
didn't see the need for him. I thought he could have been this like unknown presence almost. I almost
feel that with Twilight Princess, it was so unrecognizable, traditional in a sense, like Twilight. You know, it worked like other Zelda games. You had your dungeons and your gadgets and certain things, but they introduced Wolf Link. You had Midna, who was keeping you company throughout the whole thing, and it was kind of like Zelda herself. Zelda doesn't always play a big role in every game, but she was full on just not really in that game very much. So I think maybe bringing Ganondorf in at the end was a way of sort of making the ending feel like a part of the wider Zelda universe, because it ends with those three again. And you know, while we're on the subject, you know, things that didn't quite work with the game were, you know, the wolf sort of Wolf Link, you know.
The combat was boring, wasn't it? Like
when you were Wolf Link, it was limited. You only had like a lunge forward, and
well, to be fair, even when you were Link, because the motion control, I know it was it was a big thing to ask. It was like a launch for the Wii. Motion control was very
Let's
new at that
shoehorn
point.
it into everything.
But it didn't really work for me. I remember like just talking about this, that you didn't ask what you wanted, it didn't do what you asked it to do. But that was the worst part of that game, in my opinion. I think Wolf Link could have been really cool if there was maybe special parts of it developed that only he could do, and he didn't fight anyone.
Interesting, because he had a few dungeon mechanics where he could only fit through certain holes, but that's kind of boring.
It's like Lego did that with the smaller characters. It doesn't really need to do anything.
It felt a bit forced on you as a gamer. It didn't feel sort of natural. But having said that, there were so many other intuitive ways of playing. And you go back now and you play it. Of course, we're used to action games being a lot slicker and the movement's clear. There's something quite nice about how basic and sort of not really intuitive, but how sort of you really have to think about things like grappling, and it makes it almost feel a bit more realistic in a day where you've got like Nathan Drake and Tomb Raider just jump in chasms, like it's fun. It's nice to see Link think about things like I really need to make this jump, otherwise I'm gonna die.
So if I separate that massive drill from that
I'll blow that up with my bomb arrow, and I'll jump over my grapple. I kind of like that it goes back to that, and it's nice to play something like that. And of course, it does look so good now, and the motion is gone. They've sort of
they knew that it wasn't enjoyable at all.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like, but in terms for me, like why I really rate, I love the soundtrack. Of course, if you've ever picked up the orchestral version, I think it stands up as one of the best sort of Zelda soundtracks, and that's saying something because it is. Possibly so awesome. Again, I love the Twilight theme that came in, this whole shadow realm. The only thing that was annoying was the little sort of warbling noise they made when the Twilight demons or whatever attacked you. That was quite cool, and the pose, running around collecting those little dudes. You had to wait around at night until they came out. And the fight with the Skull Wolf, so like Golden Wolf, and he was like an ancient warrior, and he taught you the basics of sort of maneuvering. Whenever you saw him, I thought there were fun elements there. Pure Nintendo moments, where you can only get in. The dungeons were great. I especially like the dungeon where you're rolling around on sort of that spinning disc, and there's the boss, and you're hooking up into either sides. There's times when it feels insanely fluid and awesome, and there's times where it feels a bit stiff and stagnant. But riding around as Epona, man.
That was a really nice bit again as well, because you missed Epona.
When you had the
whatever
horse,
you say about
the boat, the red lion, and
but you did miss Epona, and it was a good. I think it was a good bridge because. I think you got in Skyward Sword. You got the blend of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess because it was very, very light. But it still had the style of Twilight Princess. So I think along with Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, like you said, it's being celebrated after 10 years. It will have to go down with Ocarina of Time as probably being the best Zelda game.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, it's one of those great things, Zelda. There's so much to enjoy from it. But in terms of telling an emotional story, I think it's definitely up there with Ocarina. I felt like Midna was a perfect addition. She was kind of an injection of modern character sensibilities that, sort of Nintendo's always shied away from. We saw in Skyward Sword how much they benefited from developing characters more, and I think they realised after Twilight Princess to tell a story with a bit more focus on presenting more rounded characters, and Midna was definitely one of those. She was petulant, childish, she was, but she had a heavy aim, she wanted to get back, and it is revealed, spoilers guys, Midna is the Twilight Princess, and her connection with Link, you almost feel like she's a better suited love sort of. I know Link and Zelda are never really sort of officially coupled or anything like that, but you got a vibe that Link, especially at the end when she leaves for good, and he's so shocked, and it's kind of like maybe there was something between them. And I loved the relationship between them. There's points where he rescues her in the story, and she's presented so well. And of course, when you find out she's the Twilight Princess, it's a really, really, you feel validated as a game because you spend so much time protecting this person and learning from her.
And that separation, it is
when you're looking for her as well.
Because it is just horrible, but. In regards to like a love interest, I thought that had been quite a nice thing. Like love
but
between
it's one of those
worlds.
things. It never really goes. Zelda never really sort of descends into that sort of kissy.
Yeah, Link's taking her back to the Cockering Woods, man.
Well, not in her Midna form. That's kind of creepy. But I mean, guys, 10 years, can you believe it? Twilight Princess, we're so glad it's back. It looks fantastic. Pick this one up. You know, it's one of those things where they've made a remake. They can't really balls it up, can they? So, you know, we're enjoying going back and, you know, regurgitating all of our fond memories. We're looking forward to seeing the new open world Zelda game as well. That hopefully is coming out later this year. Who knows?
So
More updates on that sure to follow. So keep it locked at caveandcow.co.uk. Keep it subscribed here. If you want to like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. Let us know what your favourite Zelda is in the comments. I'm Alex, this has been Sam, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Cape and Cow.
Good night, guys.